We all know we should be asking questions during our interview. It's not just an interrogation, we get to ask questions. And there's lots of resources out there saying, remember these 10 questions or 20 questions, whatever it might be. I don't know about you, because it is a pressure environment, I remember almost none of them. And also, sometimes I might have some of these questions written down on a piece of paper. And as we're going through the interview, the person talking to me, the interviewer, is ticking off some of those questions just naturally during the course of the interview. And then by the time they get to the end, they say, so do you have any questions for me? And I'm quickly looking down, panicking, looking at my piece of paper, thinking, we've already talked about that and that and that and that. And you just look up with that, lost deer look in your eyes, and you go, no. And it's a really awkward moment. And so those questions don't really help you. And if you're like me, there's no chance you're going to remember them in this pressure environment. So what I teach during this, and what's worked well for me in the past, is to remember one question and one question only. And I encourage you to ask this question at a different time. And this has a few interesting results. So let's talk about that. What is the question? The question is, why is this job open? And we can reword that somewhat if you're not comfortable with those words. But that's the main gist of the question. Why is this job open? Why am I here? And I encourage you to ask this question at the very start of the interview. So there's that little back and forth before they go, right, let's get down to the interrogation. And this is where the real pressure comes in for me, when the interrogation starts, because the fear really is about the next question. Will I know the answer? What if I don't know the answer? Will it be awkward? And we just go round and round this loop. So I ask that question really early. Why is this job open? And then I listen intently to the answer. And the reason I'm listening is I want to try and use whatever they say back to me to frame every answer that I give to subsequent questions. So let me give an example. I say, why is this job open? And they say, well, we're behind schedule and we just need more hands to get the product out on time, at the end of the year or whatever it is. Okay, great. And now you were going to talk about your skills and you were going to mention certain projects. But now you could possibly drop into the conversation that, we worked on this project and then we were behind schedule and I changed this or I did this and we delivered that project on time. And you're always bringing it back to this time factor, going, this person knows how to deliver. They know what it takes to pull together as a team. Now, maybe it's not a time issue. So another good example would be, they say, well, we're hiring for Node and React, and we also had someone working here who did GraphQL, and nobody else knew much about GraphQL, and that person left. Now, you have GraphQL on your resume. That's probably why you're in the room. And you were about to talk for an hour about your Node and React skills. You probably would have glossed over the GraphQL skill. It probably didn't feature that much. You were going to dig deeper into, state management and React or testing or something like that. Little did you know that the real caveat, the real value on your resume was this skill that is just one of the nice to have skills. That's why you're in the room. Now, as you talk through all these projects, you're going to be mentioning GraphQL through each of those projects so that they know you've got lots and lots of experience. All of your competitors, all of the other students are going to come in and they're going to talk, as you were going to, about Node and React, not knowing that the real reason they're in the room is about their GraphQL knowledge. And you can kind of maximize that. You can use it to your leverage. So the one thing I do hear as a pushback from this is people say, I asked the question and they came back and said, we're just growing our team. No one is just growing their team. They might say this, but that's not really true. Why would you grow your team? We just need a bigger wage bill. They're never growing. Why are you growing your team? Is it so that you can move faster which is probably most likely. Which case it's a very similar to being behind schedule. But there are, whatever they say, and there'll be lots of people saying there's no specific reason. People don't tend to just hire developers for no specific reason. So you need to read between the lines a little bit. But that's what I would say. When you get into this environment, if you've got a list of 10 or 20 questions and you can remember them, good for you. Great. For me and for most people who are a little bit nervous when they're in the interview and they don't know what to ask, having one question to ask at the start is a real game changer. And the second thing that this game changing question does is it goes from being an interrogation where you just get asked a question after question after question and hopefully you know the answers and it's really terrifying, but it changes that dynamic early on from it being just an interrogation into a conversation. And for me, that allows me to calm down and actually just start to think about how I'm presenting myself, how I'm phrasing my answers. I've got some context now to frame how I'm going to deliver what I'm saying. So if you don't like the interrogation as much as I do, turning it into a conversation can be a great way to bring you back to this relaxed or more relaxed, and you're never going to be fully relaxed, but a more relaxed feeling which allows you to answer your questions to the best of your ability. I hope that helps. Let me know how it goes. I'll be interested to hear your experience if you try this as a solution. But yeah, I wish you all the best with it. See you in the next video. Take it easy.